Welcome to Beijing and Real Madrid's third match of their World Tour 2005. The stadium is drenched with heavy rain. It has not stopped pouring all day in Beijing. The Real Madrid players have been met with great fanfare. Plenty of fans around the team hotel and plenty of great enthusiasm for this match. Their opponents, Beijing Guoan, making their way onto the pitch in the green strip. Real Madrid in their famous white strip. And there's Michel Salgado, Roberto Carlos, Michael Owen and Ronaldo. A few names for you. The crowd will steadily build up. There was a little bit of congestion outside the stadium, so the fans were struggling to get into the ground. It was over half full as far as pre-sales go, so we can expect a crowd of well over 40,000 for this match. You can see the water puddles in the background, just outside the centre circle, where advertising hoardings were covering that centre patch during the day. Remember, Real Madrid won 4-0 in their only match here at Beijing in 2003. Raul wears the captain's armband for the Spanish Giants. But Beijing have got some quality on the pitch, no question. Branko Jelic is there, the Bosnia-Herzegovina international, has scored 14 goals in record time this season in the Chinese Super League. They've got a couple of other international players. Yang Pu, who's been injured this season. And also Chu Yunlong, who should partner Branko Jelic up front. And it's a big test early in the season for Raul, the Real Madrid captain, who scored only 9 goals last season. And certainly under pressure to retain his starting berth. Referee Lu Zhong for this match here in Beijing. It's going to be interesting to see the way the players handle the very heavy conditions underfoot. And there's the Real Madrid lineup. One change from the team that beat LA Galaxy 2-0 in their second match of the US Tour. Pablo Garcia comes in for Guti. He'll play a defensive midfield role, so they'll play the same back four in Roberto Carlos, Pavon, Helguera and Salgado. And there's Vanderlei Luxemburgo, the Real Madrid coach on the left, former Brazilian national coach. And Gravison will play alongside Zidane and Garcia in midfield. Raul will virtually play as a right-sided flanker, and he'll push up as a striker with Ronaldo and Michael Owen. And there's the Beijing lineup. Virtually a full-strength side for Beijing. They're two foreigners playing, Alexa and Branko Jelic. And there is the Beijing coach, Shen Jiangfu, former Olympic coach. And the match underway. So Real Madrid have been warmly greeted everywhere they've ventured in their World Tour so far. They've still got 2 matches in Japan to come and 1 in Thailand. And Beijing push some buttons early on. Very good opportunity. Casillas down late and effected a fine save, but that was Branko Jelic pushing forward down the right. You can see how the ball is just stopping to a walk. And Beijing once again push forward, and that's a useful shot. Well, what a bright opening. Very positive indeed for Beijing. Branko Jelic on the end of that attacking move. 14 goals so far this season. And that's a record number. From 13 games he scored the 14 goals. So the quickest man ever to get to 14 goals in the Chinese Super League. And what's happened here? Is that Ivan Helguera? I think it is. He may have just fallen on that right elbow, and he's hoping it's not a break of that forearm. He's had problems with the left arm before, and this was the big fear with Real Madrid. The conditions mean it's very fluky for the players, and the big fear for such a big club was to sustain injury so early in the season. And there's no fault of the surface really, because it has been absolutely teeming down in Beijing today. Consistent rain from about 10 a.m. in the morning and has not stopped. And remember, we're in the middle of summer in China, so a little bit unlucky, the fans and the players. There's Roberto Carlos, World Cup winner in 2002, and what a World Cup finals he did have in Japan and Korea. So Real Madrid will just find a few minutes to adjust to the conditions. There's Michel Salgado. Quickly taken free kick. Roll. Forward he goes, Ronaldo. Raul has some important times early in the season to re-establish himself in the front line of Real Madrid. Only 9 goals last season. That's his poorest performance in 10 years. So he's been a colossus at the Bernabeu, but certainly not in season 2004-2005. 9 goals, 4 in the Champions League, so a total of 13 goals for Raul. Remember, he was twice a Pichichi winner. Top goal scorer in Spain between 97 and 2002. And again, Beijing go forward. Branko Jelic involved. Guaulele. Here's Alexa. Oh, that's a useful shot, and not bad tactics too, because in these conditions it's fluky underfoot for the goalkeepers. And he was just testing the confidence of Iker Casillas there. Salgado prepared to push forward. He's got Owen on his right, Ronaldo in the middle, and Raul the captain. Owen 13 goals last season, very good end to the season, mainly coming off the bench, Michael Owen. And that's a speculation effort at best, from a long way out. Roberto Carlos. And in goal for Beijing, Yang Jia. He's been their #1 choice this season. In fact, Beijing have lost 3 of their last 4 matches. Before that, there was 5 wins on the trot, so they've mixed up their form this season. And they've slipped to 5th place on the table. Of course, Branko Jelic, their top scorer and the top scorer in the league. They lost 1-0 away to Shanghai Shenhua in their last league match. It was a last-minute free kick that won the day for Shanghai at home for them. But they've had a history of playing big-name clubs on their travels. They've defeated over the years AC Milan, Arsenal, and Gremio of Brazil, and they've played against the likes of Romario at Grêmio and Maradona, who played for Boca Juniors, and Boca played here in Beijing way back in 1996. Salgado. And there's plenty of speculation about all sorts of signings for Real Madrid. They thought they've done the deal with Robinho coming across from Santos, but the Brazilian FA had something to say about that. There was a $50 million fee put on Robinho's shoulders, the 21-year-old star of the Confederations Cup. And Real Madrid thought they may have secured the deal in paying 30 million of the 50 million euros, but Santos and the Brazilian FA have said that's not enough. So there'll be another twist in the Robinho saga. Will he be signed eventually by Real Madrid? I think they'll get their man in the end, but there'll be a little bit of toing and froing. 60% of that fee is owned by the club and 40% by the agent and the player himself. So Robinho and his agent are prepared to forgo their fee, but that's not quite enough for the club. Helguera looks to have shrugged off the injury. And also, Beijing looked pretty well organised at the back as well. Attacking down the right, but well cut off. Here's Roberto Carlos. Zidane, who played an excellent first match against Guadalajara, the Mexican Giants. In fact, he had a chat to Luxemburgo before the match, reflecting on a disappointing season last for Zinedine Zidane, twice World Player of the Year. So there's plenty of big names with a point to prove in 2005-2006. Roberto Carlos drives a long ball in. Big chance here. Gravison. Teasing ball back post. Raul. And he didn't quite latch onto the volley. Difficult one to strike. He was falling away from goal. But a nice moment nonetheless for Real Madrid. Look at that. That is amazing, even to find a ball through what really was a pond of water. Very difficult for the players. And Beijing at the moment adjusting a little bit better. Here's Yelich. Big chance for the home side. And Casillas down to his left smartly. So a nice moment. And that was Tao Wei, one of their most experienced players. Branko Jelic involved. Didn't quite get enough on the shot. Nice turn to move to the side of Ivan Helguera. Not really the ideal conditions for Michael Owen to exploit his pace. Here's Roberto Carlos. Zidane. Zidane. Was he onside? Raul, yes, said the assistant. Cut back. Big chance. Oh, just over the crossbar. Well, what an excellent opportunity missed by Thomas Gravesen. The Danish international had a free shot on goal. It was wonderful work in the build-up from Raul, hugging the byline and then cutting back nicely. Not a difficult ball to control. Important times for the Real Madrid captain. It's going to be competitive for that midfield role between Gravesen and Pablo Garcia, who was one of the two South American signings so far with Diego this season. No score. Just over 10 minutes gone here in Beijing. And despite the conditions, I think we've seen some pretty entertaining football. It's proof that quality can overcome everything, and there's certainly the elements to overcome tonight. The Workers' Stadium holds just over 65,000. Oh, coughs up possession. Dangerous position too. Roberto Carlos tracked nicely across. Here's Pavon. Good defensive work by Gravison. Lele has been at the point of a number of attacks for Beijing. Zidane. I think it's a real challenge to avoid the wet patches on the pitch, keep the ball moving. The right flank seems to be a little bit drier than the left, and that's the one that Salgado likes to operate down. Gravison back to the right back. Good defensive work by Beijing. And yesterday, Real Madrid trained in Tianjin, which is about an hour and 45 minutes south of Beijing. And would you believe 20,000 people paid for tickets to see the training session? It was put on by the city of Tianjin. So Real Madrid getting out amongst the fans, and they've got plenty of fans here in China. Disappointment to see David Beckham not even on the subs bench tonight. He pulled a hamstring in the second half of the match against LA Galaxy whilst taking a free kick. So obviously a player of his skill and profile is not going to be risked so early in the season. Opens up nicely here for Ronaldo, but that was nice defensive work. And Dan Alexa, the centre-back, who looks like he's got a man-marking job on Ronaldo. He's the Romanian international. So we've got 4 international players out there for Beijing. 2 foreigners in Branko Jelic and the Romanian, Dan Alexa. And it's very interesting to look at the 2 halves of the season for Real Madrid. Vanderlei Luxemburgo got them really moving when he took over. 6 wins on the trot last season, and then a spell of 7 wins. The Brazilian has got a reputation of certainly taking clubs that have got great potential but are not realising that on the pitch and changing the mentality. And he did it to kickstart Real Madrid's challenge of Barcelona for the Primera Liga title last season, but didn't quite come off. And that's a useful ball. Mistake almost there from Michel Salgado. He got himself out of a tight situation, and now he's away on the gallop. But it's a lively attacking zone for Beijing. In fact, looking at Luxemburgo's reign as we see the Beijing bench. And that dangerous ball that deflected off a defender before Salgado made a little bit of a hash of it initially and then flicked his way out of trouble. And here's a nice moment once again for the home side. Is that Branko Jelic? I think it is. And it's a good defensive piece of work at the back by Francisco Pavon. It was Gualele who was off. really testing the Real Madrid defence. And Pavon with that defensive lunge, but a corner for Beijing. Taken short, Gravison. Zidane. Ronaldo, who lost 6 kilograms last year in a very good finish to the season. And that wasn't convincing work there by Yang Jie. A little bit off balance. Michael Owen. Deep he goes, and attempted volley. Completely missed by Zidane. That's a very rare sight. And now they have to do some defending. Pavon. Angualele, who's been lively for Beijing. Jelic can't quite get there. The flag was up on the Bosnian striker. There he is, 14 goals from 15 matches, but he scored 14 from 13. That's when he came up with that mark, which is a record in the Chinese league. Season and a half now for Beijing, and he's produced the goods. Zidane probably won't see the 90 minutes out, but he's getting valuable match fitness early in the season. And Salgado just slides, keeps the ball in play. Great balance shown by Michel Salgado. And see how difficult it is for the players to get any rhythm in the match. That was a very good ball from Roberto Carlos, dipping into the defender's feet, inviting the mistake. I would have seen Ronaldo pounce on that attacking move, but it wasn't to be. And under Vanderlei Luxemburgo, Real Madrid had 15 wins, 3 draws and 3 losses, scoring 45 goals and conceding 19. So it was a lot better record. They went through 3 coaches with Ramon Garcia previous to that, and of course Jose Camacho to start off the season. So in a lot of ways it was a tumultuous season for Real Madrid, without a major trophy in 2 years, 2 seasons. So very much uncharted territory. That's a useful ball. Nice little back heel. Ronaldo looking for Zidane, but it didn't come off. Jelic's deflected header into the path of Michel Salgado. Here's the captain role. Roberto Carlos, nimble of foot, drives the ball in and took a deflection off the defender. So it was an awkward one for Yang Jie, who dealt with it well. I hope we see that from another angle, because we'll just witness how difficult a situation it potentially was for Yang Jie. It is extremely difficult to change direction confidently in these conditions, and that's a goalkeeper's nightmare off a defender. Pavon. And he's shown a very good appetite getting forward. Alexa, there he is, the Romanian international. He's got a good engine. Plays the right back position, so very similar role to Michel Salgado, who's on the ball now. But just getting back to that point about Luxembourg, as we see that cross in from Michael Owen and the attempted volley. That was almost a 2002 Champions League final-like from Zinedine Zidane, and that glorious goal he scored against Bayer Leverkusen in Scotland. You talk about a big-time play for a big-time occasion. He scored 2 goals in a World Cup final for France against Brazil in 1998. And he scored that wonder goal in the Champions League final. And that was after he was beaten in 2 Champions League finals, playing for Juventus. One against Real Madrid back in 1998. There's Yang Pu, who was under an injury cloud before this match. Speaking to a couple of local commentators here in Beijing, they felt he wouldn't take his place in the starting 11, but coaching staff have felt he was fit to play. Yang Pu with a safety first fist away. No risk there as Roberto Carlos floats the ball in, and that's useful. Ronaldo, no, it was Zidane in the end trying to hit the ball. It was an awkward angle for him, just tried to collect it on the outside of the foot. You can see what he was trying to do. Perhaps tuck it into that top left-hand corner. And that's the great skill of Roberto Carlos. Long balls in like that, and well, if that came off, that would have been a wonder goal. Real Madrid searching for a way through a very well-organised Beijing defence at the moment. The players will tire in the second half. It's very heavy underfoot. And there's a professional foul by Thomas Gravesen. Made his way from Everton last season. Zidane just dancing his way beyond an opponent. Salgado's been a permanent fixture on the right side of defence for Real Madrid since 1999 now, 2000 season. Ronaldo, who under Luxemburgo lost 6 kilograms in what was a fine end of the season. He finished 4th in the Pichichi race, the top goal-scoring race in La Liga. That was won eventually by Diego Forlan, who played for Villarreal, the former Manchester United striker. Found his best form for Villarreal, lifting them into Europe with 24 goals. And Beijing pushing forward. That was Yang Pu down the left. That was chopped out. Part of the 2002 World Cup squad. Oh, good move. And Dan Alexa, once again, just chancing his arm and really backing his judgment. He's such an attacking defender, always posing a threat. One touch out of his feet, took a slight deflection at the other end. And a move that amounts to nothing for Real Madrid. And the rain is just beginning to thin out slightly. We just hope the second half may be rain-free. It's not going to make much difference to the pitch, though. It is water-sodden here in Beijing. Ivan Helguera went down with a early injury to his left arm, and it's good to see it's not serious. Roberto Carlos, who was signed from Inter Milan in 1997, played in 2 World Cups with Brazil in 98 and 2002, when he was really one of the better players in the whole tournament. Zidane trying to win possession back for Real Madrid. But Beijing on the march. Another very good move by Alexa. Useful ball, but covered nicely from Iker Casillas. A couple of times he's moved very smartly to his right, Iker Casillas. But Dan Alexa has shown a great appetite in getting forward from defence. But in doing so, he may just leave Beijing exposed to the counter-attack. Michael Owen. Gravison. Pablo Garcia. Roberto Carlos. There's Pablo Garcia, who plays that defensive midfield role, so he sits in front of the back four. Roberto Carlos drives in the middle. Wasn't a first touch of real note there from Raul, but gets it out of the feet well. Gravison. Equally, his first touch wasn't too smart. Salgado. Raul. Getting himself all tied up. And now Beijing away. They're showing great determination getting forward. Here's Gualele. All the way back, so he didn't really have many attacking options as Branko Jelic was struggling to make ground in the middle. So Real Madrid trying to protect a perfect record here in Beijing. The only time they've been on this stadium, they beat a China Dragon Select team 4-0. It was in 2003. Beckham's first match. Good shot. Oh, that's a fine save. Yang Zhe very smartly to his right. That was hit with great conviction from Michael Owen. And a terrific save by the Beijing goalkeeper. Travelling quickly, any width, and it may have snuck past him, but through the legs Michael Owen went. Zidane on the edge of the area, dancing his way through. Trying to find Roberto Carlos, who ends up with the ball now. Helguera slicing it high, looking for Raul. So we're just under 30 minutes here in Beijing. No score, but number of chances. There's Dan Alexa. He's a quality player. Romanian international. So a very important signing for Beijing. And they were up in second place on the table with 5 straight wins before that mini horror spell they've had. 3 losses in their past 4 matches. That includes 1 draw as well. So they've lost their way a little bit, slipping to 5th place on the table. And Real Madrid go on to play Tokyo Verdy and Jubilo Iwata in Japan before playing in Thailand, and then finally in Hungary before the Primera Liga starts. Zidane offside. Retired from international football 12 months ago. Zinedine Zidane just straying, wasn't much in it really. Slightly into an offside position. Jelic goes down on the edge of the area, but advantage perhaps played by the referee. And that left-footed shot from Tao Wei came off the defender for a Beijing corner. Well, the crowd has steadily built up. I would suggest a number of the fans were still outside the stadium when the match got underway. A little bit of a traffic jam outside many of the gates. Good corner, back post, and that's a goal. Beijing have scored. Well, it's Liu Jiang with the header that may have just taken a slight deflection off the defender. It's been credited to Branko Jelic. There's always a danger in wet conditions that's going to happen. Defenders caught out of position, but a well-taken corner was played deep from Gualele. And the deflection did come off Liu Jiang, so he'll be credited with the goal. The header was Branko Jelic's, but a very clever deflection from the Beijing number 18. Roberto Carlos was flat-footed and Iker Casillas was deceived. It's 1-0 to the home side. A richly deserved goal. I think Branko Jelic was trying to suggest to the official it was number 15 for the season, but I don't think he was fooled. And Real Madrid trying to respond immediately. Zidane off the deflection. Roberto Carlos tries another of his scorching shots from long range, and a very clever little heel into the area, but Ronaldo was caught offside. So just beyond the half hour. It's Beijing 1, Real Madrid 0. And I'm sure you wouldn't have thought that would be the case after half an hour of play. Remember, they've quite comfortably dealt with two of their opposition in their World Tour so far. In their first match, they beat Chivas Guadalajara from Mexico 3-1. Remember, they were semi-finalists in the Copa Libertadores in South America. It was a fine performance. They were match fit, and Real Madrid playing their first serious competitive game for 2005. And in the second match, they beat LA Galaxy 1-0. So it's great credit to Beijing to be 1-0 up against such a quality opposition. Got almost their full strength side on the pitch, so this is a result, but plenty of time yet for Real Madrid. Beijing full of confidence and searching for a second now. There's a home side player down, just collecting a knock to the ankle. There's Gualele, whose corner set up the goal for Beijing. He's been an industrious player in the first half. Just been caught there by Thomas Gravesen. And remember, Beijing have had a history of knocking off big opposition here at this ground. They've beaten over the years AC Milan back in 1994 and Arsenal in the same year, and also Flamengo that had Romario playing for them at that stage. So when you consider that Wright and Adams and David Seaman were in the Arsenal lineup, they've got an appetite for hosting big clubs. And there's a yellow card, the first card produced. And Michel Salgado saying that was not the right call, Mr. Referee, but Liu Jun adamant that Salgado claimed his opponent from behind, and that exactly was the case. So a very, very good call there from Lucian. Well, Lele again sprawled on the ground. I think it's great credit to the Beijing players that a player of the skill of Michel Salgado is being booked. Another deflected shot, but this time well away from goal. And would you believe there is virtually no rain, just a slight sprinkle. So 6 hours of rain has now ceased as Shen Jiangfu, the Beijing coach, just outside or on the edge of his technical area. Dan Alexa chips forward, and surely he's offside. Branko Jelic. A very difficult play to execute there from Dan Alexa, and the offside trap was not beaten by the Bosnian striker, searching for goal 15 for the season. So we're approaching half-time, and it's Beijing with the goal advantage. Roberto Carlos. Zidane. Chance for the equaliser, and it's there. Real Madrid make it 1-1 close to the break, and it's the captain Raul with his first goal of the season. It was a neat move. Roberto Carlos, his creativity set it up down the left, and Raul was the finishing point for Real Madrid. Important goal for him. Remember, just 9 goals last season in the league, 4 in the Champions League. A very good couple of touches out of the feet, and nice reflex shot past Yang Zhe. There's Roberto Carlos's touch. A little flick from Zidane off a defender, and thank you very much, says Raul. Plenty of speculation that he may be the striker that makes way for Robinho. With goals like that, he's going to make Real Madrid officials think twice. Wearing the captain's armband, he's the all-time leading scorer in the Champions League with 49 goals. Twice a Pichichi winner in La Liga, and scored a very important goal to level things up here in Beijing. Salgado, Raul, Gravison. Is there another goal left in this first half? Just over 5 minutes left. Zidane, Ronaldo's been quiet in the first half, and a clearance in haste by Dan Alexa. They've only got 2 players forward now. Branko Jelic looking to retain possession, but free kick settles things up for Beijing. Professional foul from Pavon. Pulling the shirt. And Beijing again attack with great potency down that right. There was Pavon. Before that, Pablo Garcia involved in that defensive move. And corner has to be retaken. Gualele, who's done very well in the situation from dead ball situations in the first half for Beijing. Iker Casillas. Gualele, and that's an awkward one, but dealt with well. A goalkeeper that's not overly tall, but he was a magnificent shot stopper indeed. Pavon. Potential fast break here as it stops dead. Ronaldo chips into space. Gravison. And they move back from an offside position. Free players there for Real Madrid. And it just had too much carry. Michael Owen couldn't control the header. An opportunity lost for the visiting team. Gravison getting wide, and when he pulls out to the right he can look dangerous, and you just saw that he had to crane and arch the neck to control that header, Michael Owen. In the conditions, just couldn't get any purchase on the leap, and thus control on the header. Appeals for handball were upheld there from Real Madrid. You can just see lifted the arm. Did Cui Dongliang. Gravison. Thomas Gravison shot cannons into a defender. Still going. And the Dane snuffed out by determined Beijing defending. Draws some applause from the fans here at the Workers' Stadium. Shen Jiangfu, who the former Olympic coach of China. He was shown the door when he failed to qualify the Chinese Olympic team for the Athens Games. Just took over after the Sydney Olympics, and before that played professional football in Japan. Former national team striker. As Beijing march forward, and that is definitely a professional foul. Gravison will have to be careful. He's already been spoken to by the referee. It was Michel Salgado who's been the recipient of the only yellow card of the match so far. And Gravison being guided by Iker Casillas, who's just positioning his wall. Maybe a little bit too far out, but in these conditions you can never take anything for granted as a goalkeeper. And the positioning of the wall very, very important indeed. He wants the side on this one. Free kick hit and easily saved. It was struck by Tao Wei, the number 15 for Beijing. Didn't quite have the pace nor the direction to worry Casillas. Iker Casillas, a remarkable career. Remember, he was playing in Real Madrid's third team in 1999. A year later, he was lifting the Champions League crown. So it was a remarkable rise to fame at the Bernabeu for a goalkeeper so young, who's been with the club since age 10, Iker Casillas. This has been their preferred channel of attack down the right to Beijing, and yet another corner earned. And Gua Lele has been a dangerous man. He's whipping some pretty potent balls in from wide positions on the pitch. Well, Beijing have hardly played like a team that have lost their last 3 or 4 matches in the Super League in China. They played with great confidence in the first half. Lele plays it square, and it's hit with the outside of the foot. That was Roberto Carlos-like. Didn't quite come off, but full marks for adventure. Zidane. That was a free kick. Gravison saying that he stubbed his foot into the ground. It was no contact of mine, but I think the replay suggests otherwise. Sometimes the eye is not quicker than the foot as far as a referee's concerned. And now there's some green shirts forward if they can string some passes together, put pressure on the Real Madrid team close to half-time. A club that has won 2 FA Cups and 2 Super Cups in China. Once they've been runners-up in the league and third as well. So when you consider that Dalian has won 7 league titles, that not at the pinnacle of Chinese football by any means, but have performed very well here. Salgado, early ball played in and hit first time and skied over the crossbar. Raul attempting his second goal. And again, in these conditions, very, very difficult to control the ball without the first touch. Salgado in space. Curled wide of 2 defenders and, well, with the outside of the foot, it wasn't controlled. So, half-time in Beijing, a very entertaining first half indeed. He realised a goal just beyond the half hour by Lu Jiang of Beijing before Raul equalised 10 minutes later. So in the first 45 minutes, honours even. Beijing really performing quite superbly in the first half of this third tour match of Real Madrid. After 45 minutes, as Beijing won, Real Madrid won. Well, Real Madrid trying to dust off a long flight from LA and some indifferent form in the first half. The absence of David Beckham here at the Workers' Stadium. And a very determined Beijing Gua lineup. They had a couple of chances early on. Michel Salgado was solid in defence. And there was Raul attempting to set Thomas Gravison up for the shot that was skied over the crossbar. Yang Zhe was solid in goal for Beijing. Zidane missed that volley attempt. Helguera was injured early on. But overall, you'd have to say Beijing defended with a great organisation, and they had a fantastic appetite getting forward. And here's the goal. The header from Branko Jelic and the touch on from Lu Jiang just beyond the half hour. A reflex effort beyond the grasp of Iker Casillas, and the reply 10 minutes later from the Real Madrid captain, Raul, with an important goal to start his campaign off for 2005-2006 season. A couple of touches out of the feet and sliced it between 2 defenders and past the goalkeeper for the equaliser. Raul scored 9 goals last season. Welcome back to the Workers' Stadium in Beijing. Second half just about to get underway. And we'll bring you right up to date with the changes for the second half. I'm sure there'll be a number for Real Madrid as the second 45 minutes unfolds. Pablo Garcia there with Michel Salgado and Roberto Carlos, who was lively in the first 45 minutes. But so was Beijing, who scored first through Lu Jiang before Raul equalised some 5 to 6 minutes later for the Spanish Giants. Casillas had a difficult time in goal, as did his opposite number, Yang Zhe. Just struggled to get their footing in goal. Persistent rain all day in Beijing. has made conditions extremely tenuous indeed for all players. So second half underway. Real Madrid has won the league title 29 times in Spain, their last trophy in 2003. 9 times European champions. Their last 3 in 98, 2000 and 2002. 98 was Juventus who they defeated, and that Juventus side included Zinedine Zidane. 2002, Zidane was in the white colours of Real Madrid, and he's on the ball now. Here's Gravison. Ronaldo was quiet in the first half. Owen's been a positive starter for Real Madrid in their first 2 matches. He scored in the 2-0 victory against Los Angeles with Soldado, who has scored in both matches, the young striker. He's on the bench. We should see him in the second half. Branko Jelic was lively, as was Gualele for Beijing. He's the corner taker and the man that is pretty dangerous from the set piece as well. Guti's on the field. There he is, number 14. So he's one of the changes. Perhaps Pablo Garcia making way. We'll just try to pick that up. Salgado. He gives away the foul. So Gravison's on the pitch. Garcia, I think, has made way for Guti, who scored in that opening match against Guadalajara in front of 50,000 people in Chicago. It was a magnificent atmosphere, great conditions. Magia, the young junior player for Real Madrid, Guti and Soldado scored. Zidane was sparkling in the first half. And Diogo, the Argentine, one of the signings this season, was also in sparkling form as well. Well, the last few minutes of the first half, it was rain-free, but unfortunately the rain is back over the Workers' Stadium. You can see by the puddles, that is the wettest part of the pitch right there. And one the ball was attracted like a magnet to in the first half. A very good test for the Beijing players. I know there has been some criticism of Real Madrid coming to China and playing in the benefits for Chinese football, but you talk to the players and anybody involved with Beijing, and they are full of great anticipation about this match, and indeed about the forthcoming match against Manchester United. 2 matches where they gain so much experience. Here's Guti. Many say he'll be signed in the off-season. Ronaldo, one way then the other. Some speculation that Guti may have been picked up by Arsenal, but Arsene Wenger has quashed that rumour very quickly in the press, literally 24 hours ago, saying that we won't be looking at Guti, who twice has been a European champion winner with Real Madrid. So it means that Tottenham Hotspur, who are playing the Peace Cup in Korea as we speak, may be in the van to sign the signature or sign the services of Guti for season 2004-2005. Ronaldo, Gravison, Zidane, back to the Brazilian. Some showboating here for Real Madrid. It's knocked wide. Salgado. Here's the Dane Gravison. It was going to be tough to get through that wall of defenders for Raul, who scored the equaliser for Real Madrid in the first half. must say the pitch has stood up pretty well under the absolute drenching it's received today in Beijing. Remember, it's the middle of summer here in China. Zidane, Ronaldo, and that's a fine save. Thought initially he may go across the goalkeeper and tuck it inside the back post, and that was the move I think that Yang Zhe was guarding against. May have taken a slight deflection off the defender, which it did, so it made the save even more tidy from the goalkeeper. Soldado is in fact on the pitch as well, the number 17 for Real Madrid. So Guti and Soldado, the two changes at half-time. Well controlled there by Salgado. Interesting story surrounding Real Madrid's arrival in China. Their luggage was left behind in Los Angeles, so they were out kit for the best part of 24 hours, and Julie went across the road from the hotel and raided the closest Adidas store. Almost cleaned it out. Here's Gualele. And the shot just shot off the turf, and one that required some concentration from Iker Casillas. So I'm sure the fans in that particular shopping centre were agog with what they were seeing, with Galacticos stars everywhere purchasing Adidas kit. Well, as the second half wears on, the players will tire. You usually see mistakes creep in. So we'll just see how the fitness levels are with Real Madrid. Remember that Beijing are in the middle of their Super League season in China, one that has seen them lose 3 of their last 4 matches, so wasn't overly impressive form leading up to this encounter. But their first half was full of great merit. Ronaldo off a defender almost into the path of Raul there. And he had an interesting start to the tenure under his coach, Vanderlei Luxemburger. He was dropped early on in that 6-match winning streak that Real Madrid had when Luxemburger took over the reins. And then under a dietitian lost 6 kilograms and finished up the season with 21 goals and 4th in the goal scorers list. So a very positive finish to the season. At one stage there was some speculation that Adriano, the superstar Brazilian striker, would be the off-season target of President Perez, but that was quickly quashed in the press. And with 21 goals, I think Ronaldo has protected his tenure in the front line at Real Madrid. There he is there with Zidane, Raul. And that's a good shot from long range. Thomas Gravesen trying to whiz one past the goalkeeper. He missed a gilt-edged opportunity in the first half when Raul cut back from the byline, and that was a more difficult assignment. Well, who will stay and who will go in this Real Madrid squad is very interesting indeed. The press reports overnight suggest that both Luis Figo and Walter Samuel are on the verge of signing with Inter Milan, as Gravesen, I think, was booked there by referee Lu Jian. Well, he plays that sort of game, Thomas Gravison. He's always in the face of the opposition. Well, I think he had full rights to produce yellow on the Dane. And back to that point on Luis Figo, we haven't seen him appear yet. And Walter Samuel, the Argentine defender, a long-time target of Inter Milan. There he is, the Portuguese superstar, 32 now. So he's about to come on, along with Diogo, who's the other signing for Real Madrid. Carlos Diogo, Uruguayan defender. And Luis Figo, who's won 4 championships, 2 with Real Madrid and 2 with Barcelona. Experienced heartache with Portugal, and Zidane makes way. The benefit of a deep bench and relaxed rules in these pre-season matches. You can see Luxemburgo have a look at a number of players. He's already had a first half look at Pablo Garcia in that defensive midfield role, and now he sees Carlos Diogo slip into defence. Uruguayan international, played 5 seasons with River Plate. He's wearing Solari's old shirt at number 21. So will Luis Figo be at the club in a month's time? The reports suggest that's not going to be the case. That Internazionale are on the verge of signing him with Walter Samuel, and if that's the case, then 2 very good signings for Inter Milan, who have lost Christian Vieri, of course, who's now going to line up in an AC Milan shirt for the coming season. And in the roller coaster of rumours, it's even suggested that Ryan Giggs may be a target at Real Madrid. I think that is pure speculation, but I suppose anything can happen when you've got a very deep checkbook, which Perez seems to have at the Bernabeu. Sui Dong Liang just fouling Diogo there. Well, it's a good measure of how they can concentrate through 90 minutes here, Beijing. Here's one of their more experienced players, Yang Pu, who's part of the 2002 World Cup squad. And this was the stadium, of course. China lost the Asian Cup final to Japan last year. Also high hopes for China leading up to the Olympics in Beijing. They didn't qualify for Athens. Free kick over hit, and the coach during their campaign for Athens was Shan Jiangfu, who's now in charge of Beijing. At the moment, the home side holding firm. Will the likes of Ronaldo release the brakes and really expressed themselves out there. Important match for Raoul, who's already scored. Here's Dan Alexa, who had a very, very impressive first half. Those marauding runs down the right. And a nice, neat ball chipped into the area, but the striker's not prepared to chip in. First touch for Luis Figo. Guti. Roll. Back to the number 14. In their injury-plagued season of 2003-2004, Guti was used as a makeshift striker and he scored 14 goals. And feels since then he really hasn't been given the first team opportunities he deserves. Been very public in saying that he wants to leave the Bernabeu. Which club will pick him up? That remains to be seen. Gravison. Luis Figo, former World Player of the Year. Made his name really at Barcelona. And the target of great derision when he made the move to Real Madrid a few seasons back, but already realised a European Championship. And they're getting themselves a little bit tied up there, the Real Madrid defence. Salgado and Pavon. Of course, Helguera plays alongside Pavon in that central defensive area. And there's fans aplenty of Real Madrid the world over. It's very much in vogue. Barcelona recently toured Japan and continued their exposure in a very big market. Now Real Madrid's turn. They were second behind Barcelona in the La Liga race season previous. Now normally this would be a distance range that would prove no real problem for Iker Casillas, but in these conditions you can take nothing for granted. You can see Casillas just fashioning his wall. He's getting a sight between Gravison and Guti. Lele deflects off a defender, and that's going to be a Beijing corner. Well, Lele was a very productive midfielder in the first half. Important time for Real Madrid as they set the defensive theme for the forthcoming season. Many people think these are just exhibition matches, but they're a whole lot more. There's a lot at stake. Corner taken by Gualele and overhit by a long way. Here's Carlos Diogo. He had a very good match in coming on against LA Galaxy. And also against Guadalajara in the first match of the US Tour. A match in which Soldado, the young striker, scored twice in his entry. And here's a big chance for Real Madrid. Ronaldo and Luis Figo. Raul. Roberto Carlos, as he does so many times, joins in. Chips forward. And that's a good defensive effort. Didn't try to overhit that clearance. And that just shows you how composed Beijing have been under pressure. Dan Alexa. And you sense Ronaldo may just find that opening he's been searching for. And Luxemburgo very keen to give him a lot of time on the pitch. He knows his fitness was down last season until he lost that weight and really got into shape. And here's a nice move for the home side. Ball curled back, and well, the header was not connected with from Branko Jelic. It was a difficult one. He had to just double back and arch his body. Again, Guaolele at the point of that move. So he and Jelic are on the same wavelength, that's for sure and certain. So 1-1 it remains. Gravison. Raul. Here's Guti. Roberto Carlos. Back to his captain. Mejia is the defender who's on the ground. And a move here for Beijing coming onto the pitch. Shang Yi. That's a badge of honour in South America, the number 10 jersey. And Sui Dongliang making way for the midfielder. He's had a productive match. Of course, they're in the middle of their season and looking to break what's been a very ordinary run. 3 of the last 4 matches they've lost, and previous to that they'd won 5 on the trot to lift them to second on the table. Dan Alexa's the most experienced as far as European football is concerned, Romanian international. There he is on the ball now. Well, it's a bit of a stalemate situation. No team has really gained the ascendancy in the second half. Some of the stars are off the pitch for Real Madrid. Some are back on. Here's Raul. Ronaldo. Step over. Chance. The goal scoring sneak in Raul. The post is second, but it was an awkward one to control because just bobbled up in the area. He was sliding into the ball. Diogo was the provider, and Raul had the chance to finish, but you can see here from this angle it was difficult. Just skipped off the turf, and he had to virtually strike it on the volley. So Raul, after scoring the equaliser in the first half, makes way for Soldado. And one front comes onto the pitch as well. So they're using their full array of substitutes, Real Madrid. Can Figo cause some menace? See there fouling Swiwei. Well, this is a very respectable performance indeed from the home side. Considering they made Guadalajara look very, very ordinary indeed in their first match, and they're at the elite of South American football, making the the semi-finals of the Copa Libertadores. And now you've got a fifth place Chinese Super League team at the moment holding the giants of Spanish football, albeit in a pre-season match, but it's a competitive exchange, no question. Pride at stake, and a Beijing player on the pitch. I think he's just cramping up a little bit there, Gualele. Figo. Roberto Carlos. Gravison. Mejia. Here's Salgado. See how heavy that part of the pitch is. Forward it goes for Diogo, who's just caught an awkward position there on the hip of an opponent. Michel Salgado, former Celta Vigo player. Well, there's no superannuation policy required at the Bernabeu when you're coach of Real Madrid. Twice they've had former European Cup winners sacked. Jupp Heynckes back in the 90s, and of course Vicente Del Bosque was shown the door as well. So they have incredibly high standards at the Bernabeu, and here's a good chance. He was caught offside. That was Soldado. And what will Vanderlei Luxemburgo's reign return for a club so steeped in history? 9 European titles, 29 league titles for Real Madrid, numerous cup wins as well, over 70 major trophies won by the club. It's quite a phenomenal record, but they've been trophy-less in 2 seasons, so that's unacceptable when you've got wages of Real Madrid stature. Always so much focus and attention off the field as well on the players. It's been amazing to see the way they've been received at the hotel, the official team hotel here in Beijing. They really do appreciate the support they get in China. Madrid and China celebrating 20 years of sisterhood as cities. Roberto Carlos. Gravison. That move breaks down. Oh, clever work. This is Dan Alexa at his very best. Here he goes, Branko Jelic in, and could this be the eventual winner? What a goal from Beijing. The 2 foreigners involved, Alexa's superb touch played in Branko Jelic, who scored his 15th goal of the season. And it's 2-1 for the home side. Well, that was world class, no question. Alexa on one of his gallivanting runs, and Jelic's finish full of class. I don't think anybody was expecting that move. We haven't really seen much of Alexa's potency in this department in the second half. He was full of run in the first, but that was brilliant. With the outside of the foot playing in Branko Jelic. And 2-1 the result. A Romanian to a Bosnian. And the Chinese Giants go up against the Giants of Spain. So 15 minutes of regular time remaining, and it's 2-1. Have Real Madrid got a reply? This would be a famous victory. Forget about the conditions. It's 11 men against 11 out there. And Beijing have fully deserved their 2-1 lead. Can they hang on? Here's Figo. Gualele. Branko Jelic. Dan Alexa. Lovely switch of play too. Good vision from the Romanian. Here's an opportunity. Played forward for Jelic. Good work by Luis Figo. Soldado. Well, they've kept their composure. It was Sui Wei there on the young striker who scored twice, remember, in the series so far. As De La Red, another of the junior players, coming on for Salgado, so he'll slot into that right back position. Salgado had a very good first half, covers a lot of territory. De La Red, a flexible player, can play in a defensive midfield role or at the back. Looks like he's slotted into the middle of the park. So many young players on the pitch and different formation. All conspires against Real Madrid, but can they fashion the equaliser? Roberto Carlos. Guti wearing the captain's armband now. Luis Figo. They need something from him. The pressure tightens on the Beijing defence. Poor touch by Guti. Branko Jelic. Extracts the foul out of the young defender Pavon. We'll see how much it means to Shan Jiangfu, coach of Beijing. And here's players forward for Real Madrid. Guti. Oh, that's a good first time shot. Hit with the outside of the right boot. His non-preferred side. It was struck sweetly. Hook back. And is this the equaliser? Guti. It is 2-2. The second half captain has scored and continued his scoring run in this World Series for Real Madrid. Well, the Beijing defence was caught square, and a lapse in concentration has cost them dearly. Yang Zhe's goal was exposed. You can see there the first effort was fluffed by Soldado, but perhaps a blessing in disguise as one front hooked the ball back, and ghosting in for that opportunistic goal was Guti, as Vanderlei Luxemburgo applauds that effort. So the remaining 15 minutes has really opened up here in Beijing. Gualele, and was he onside there? Branko Jelic almost timed his run to perfection. Had an impish glance across to the assistant. I think he felt he was perhaps just the wrong side of the defender. Well, Gravison stepped up at just the right time. Not much in that call. Guti free. Ball pulled back, and that's lax defending. They clear their line now, Beijing, but only momentarily. Here's Roberto Carlos. Ball sliced wide to the right. Now cleared in haste. Well, good test here for the Beijing defence. Because you know Real Madrid will come at them. That's their nature. De La Red. Gravison. Roberto Carlos. To the feet of Figo. Gravison. Still Thomas Gravison. De La Red. On the edge of the area. And he goes down. And that's a penalty. Well, contentious decision. There was contact on the Real Madrid attacking player. Whether it was enough to substantiate a penalty, perhaps the replay will shed some more light on that. It was one front. Well, make your own mind up. I think controversial at best. Yang Pu was the defender, so very experienced from the Chinese international. Under the conditions, it was a hard decision, I think. Luis Figo. Eyes off Yang Pu and sends the goalkeeper the wrong way. So 3-2. It's quickly turned around for Real Madrid. And Beijing can count themselves a touch unlucky there. A controversial decision has resulted in a Figo penalty. Yang Zhe was sent the wrong way. Expert penalty taker Luis Figo held his nerve well. Well, on the precipice of a famous victory, and in a blink of an eye, it's 3-2. Can Beijing get themselves back into the contest? De La Red. Lu Jiang, the goal scorer in the first half. That's an excellent ball. Well controlled too by Branko Jelic. Well, he was sweating off on the run from Lele, but it wasn't forthcoming. Dan Alexa was at the point of perhaps the best goal of the match in combining with Branko Jelic. Giving away a professional foul on Guti there. Well, near capacity crowd despite the very wet conditions here at the Workers' Stadium. Crowd in excess of 50,000, which is an excellent turnout, because only the diehards would brave these conditions. Certainly to see top-class international football. Guo Lele. Good ball, useful to say the least. Just swinging across the goalkeeper and beyond the reach there of Branko Jelic. Well, he's a player of great quality. The Beijing number 21. Long-time stalwart of the club and a great servant tonight. And at one stage it looked like Real Madrid would join the likes of AC Milan, Arsenal and Flamengo on the losing end of a Beijing performance here at the Workers' Stadium, but Spanish Giants have turned it around very quickly. They may not be done with yet. Excellent work. Diogo. And important minutes on the pitch for a number of young players. De La Red and Soldado, one front. Diogo, Mejia. All fringe players in this richly talented squad. It may just take on a different form in the next month. If you consider that Samuel and Figo may be gone and Robinho is almost certain to be added if they can get over the contractual issues with Santos, his club in Brazil. One front. Figo. And there was a whistle previously on play, so a dual move here for Beijing. Now onto the pitch is Valdewe. And Yan for Beijing. Come on, so some time on the surface for them in the dying minutes of this match. Still time for Beijing though to pull out an equaliser. Less than 10 minutes left. You can see there Roberto Carlos trying to protect a very sensitive part of the anatomy for a footballer, the toes. One stage the officials from Real Madrid were very keen to buy an interest in the Beijing club. It's gone off the boil a little bit in the last year or so, but certainly in 2003 when they were here to play the match against that combined team, there was discussions with the club, but they balked at Real Madrid having a controlling interest, which you can fully understand. That's when talks reached a stalemate. Very much in vogue with European clubs buying interest in Asian outfits. Offers them a great entree into young talent in a new region. Of course, Park Ji-sung, new signing for Manchester United, and he'll be on display against Beijing. That match only a couple of weeks away. Well, Real Madrid protecting a perfect record in their World Tour. Certainly had a very good record a couple of years back, winning all matches, and they've started off in great fettle in 2005-2006. There was Figo. Came up short in that pass with Roberto Carlos. The Beijing midfielder just lost his footing there. Here's De La Red and Guti. Squeezed out a pass down the right. Diogo. Figo. Plays it square, Roberto Carlos. And so many times that's come off, but not on that occasion. As Mejia's galloping back, almost into time added on here in Beijing. Very, very tough conditions indeed for the players. Roberto Carlos. Oh, that's a delightful ball. Curling into Soldado. Beyond him, though. Guti. Will he make it 4-2? Well, he missed the target, but not by that too much as he danced into the area. He scored in the opening win against Guadalajara. 2 touches out of his feet and just skewed wide of the mark. It was a golden opportunity missed by the number 14, who put 14 goals away a couple of seasons back as a striker. Roberto Carlos, competitive to the last minute of this match. He'll see out the 90 minutes, as will Thomas Gravison. Yellow red. There's Figo. And that's a corner for Real Madrid. Operating down the right one front. So still time. Corner quickly taken and Figo offside. So much fanfare surrounding Real Madrid's arrival in China to start their Asian tour, 4-match Asian tour. 2 matches in Japan and 1 in Thailand before moving to Hungary and then back to Spain for the start of the Primera Liga. Diogo, searching ball through the middle, but well defended by Shui Wei. Referee having a look at the watch. Ujion. Wouldn't be too much time left. And there it is. Well, it's been a very entertaining match indeed. Real Madrid have come back from a deficit twice. Luis Figo provided the winning goal from the spot after a pretty contentious penalty, it must be said. A tough night for Iker Casillas. Lu Jiang opened the goal scoring for Beijing. Raul came up with the equaliser. Then the second half, it was Branko Jelic with a finished off goal from a wonderful piece of play from Alexa, the Romanian. Then Guti made it 2-2 and Luis Figo with the winner. So 3-2 it's ended up here in Beijing to start Real Madrid's Asian leg of their World Tour.